Oi, psst. Yeah, you. Get over here. It's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. This week, the guys are talking about what children need. Let's listen in on the conversation.
Ready?
Are we rolling? Oh, we're rolling. Hello, welcome to episode 6. We still don't have a name for our podcast.
Well, we were going to talk about family, wasn't it?
We are.
We're going to talk about family,
but that doesn't mean we have a name for our podcast. It's a totally different thing. Different subjects.
Oh, right.
And you have to do a little theme song. I don't know how long.
We're quirky and we're kooky. We're just a little spooky. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. The Addams Family. Dun-dun-dun-dun. 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 That's terrible.
How long are these theme songs going to go on for?
Well, I'm just waiting on you to get involved. You're not getting amongst it.
I clicked.
No.
I clicked.
You started singing that stupid song before. So now I just feel depressed.
For anybody who doesn't know, when I start singing, he does not like it. No. He literally gets...
I don't mind you singing. It's that song.
Oh, that song.
Oh, my God.
Heal the world. Make it...
Okay, let's go.
That's probably because for 3 weeks we were in a studio. That should have been the end of Michael Jackson's career. And every time we had a break, I was singing that song. Yeah. Actually, this is a good point. It actually segues beautifully into what we're going to talk about. Right. People keep telling me, or people ask me, "Oh, do you get annoyed at things? Do you, get frustrated?" I'm like, we're human. Mitch is human as much as he, looks. I'd really
love to live your balanced life, and I'm like, dude, I'm doing this to learn how to cope. I'm trying to cope with shit.
That's not quite true, but the point is that we all got our stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
And
because I was just thinking about it the other day, I was thinking, I'm 25 years doing PD work, and lots of people get into the whole PD thing because they think something's broken. And people come to me and say to me, I've got something going on, and I need to sort this out. But you don't. When you get it, when you have that moment, what happens is you don't do PD work because you're trying to fix shit.
Yeah.
You do PD work because you get to love life more, and you get
yourself more,
and you get to love yourself more, and you get to enjoy the journey better, and it makes it a more congruent ride. And to get it is to get that there is actually nothing wrong, and there never has been anything wrong.
So I think we wanted to talk about family today, because. And there's some people out there who don't have families, don't have kids, but everyone was a kid. And this episode, I think, is...
but everybody has a kid. They have a little kid inside of them.
They've got a little kid inside of them, 100%.
Yeah.
But this episode, I think, is just to shed some light on, we've all got stuff going on. And one of the best measures of that is to look at how we interact with our families and with our children,
Well, look, I suppose I'm a really good crash test dummy. I'm going to a sea party on the weekend.
Yes. When are you dressing up as a card?
I'm dressing up as a crash test dummy. Actually.
You're not. You're dressing up as a card.
No. I'm just dressing up as a card. I'm dressing up as a crash test dummy.
That's news to me. That's
anyway, so being the crash test dummy...
Who's going to come and hit you?
I am. I'm going to keep crashing my car into a wall. Being the crash test dummy, I suppose, and having 3 very young children, I should probably talk about some of the stuff that goes on for me. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So I think each kid is really different, and it's funny when I noticed when Lexi was born. I used to say to my dad, what do I do? What am I going to do? And he'd say to me, son, there's no rule book. And I'm like, right. He said, but you'll just know. And it's funny, you do. You just know. Do you know what I mean? I was like, the thought of changing a nappy, was like...
Beforehand.
Yeah. But as soon as, because it's your kid, honestly, you'd eat their shite.
Oh, no, that's probably a bit extreme.
It is a bit extreme. But you just love you just love them so much. Like when this baby turns up, you just think, oh my God, I never knew I could fucking love something as much as I love this kid. So you know, like you get in there, you don't give a damn, but it just naturally comes, and then you fill the bath, how to wash them. I mean, I washed Lexi within her first 24 hours myself, which was just fantastic. So there's definitely this instinctful thing kicks in, but there is no rule book, and I realized at an early stage, I had this instinctual knowing that, you know, I wanted to be daddy, and you bring all your traits and your characteristics from your old childhood, and you think, oh my God, I'm not going to make all the mistakes that my father made with me, and I'm not going to make all the perceived mistakes that my mother made with me, even though instinctively I know that they didn't make any mistakes. But you want to get it right. Do you know what I mean? And you want to.
So how did that work out for you?
Well, it didn't. I had to stop wanting to get it right, you know, and at the end of the day, I had to just understand that it was more of a process for me than it was for them. Yeah. Does that make sense? They're perfect when they turn up. I'm dealing with all my imperfections that are showing up in the kid, and the kid brings out all the imperfections.
Because they're reflecting. So all the stuff that they're doing is like bringing up all of your stuff, and so you're having to deal with your stuff in them. And that's a really important thing for parents out there to know. Let's talk about some of the stuff, because you come and talk to me about. Well,
you are my psychologist. You're my gynecologist.
Oh, excellent.
You're my hypnothologist.
There you go.
You're my
not even a thing.
Anyway,
but you do come to me to talk about the parenting thing because of my teaching background. And I'm no expert either, but there's definitely things I can see from the outside that, help. And I think one of the things that I think would help a lot of parents out there as well is that your kids aren't giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And
that was one of the first things that I learned.
Yeah, and because what's going on is that parents really take this stuff personally. It's like, well, she's having a go at me. This is about me. No, it's actually got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with them and what's going on for them, you know?
Yeah.
And when we haven't worked out what's happening inside of ourselves, what will happen is that we will impose that on the kids.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, we try to work our own stuff out in them.
With them. And the way that you'll do that is you'll say, oh, my kid is not following instructions, or my kid is not listening.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually not your kid that's not listening. It's you that's not listening because you don't know how to hear what the kid is trying to say to you, you know? Yeah. So one of the first things that I think that you needed to sort of deal with is that it's actually not about you. It's not a personal thing. Yeah. This is about them trying to navigate their way around life, this thing that we call life, and how do they do it?
And when they're having a tantrum.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going, get up off the ground, what are you doing? Don't be doing that. You know, don't pull your sister's hair. Don't pull the dog by the tail. And you're like, you do. You hear the amount of times that you say, don't, or no.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of times in my life that I say no to my kids, and then I stop and I think. But my first reaction is to go, no, Daddy, can I have this? No. And then I stop and go, oh, no, yeah, you can. Here, that's all right. Or what do you want it for? And you have to wean yourself out of those knee-jerk reactions. And a lot of the time it's because you're trying to protect them. You're trying to not.
It's all done for those purposes.
You're not doing it because you're being an asshole. Yeah. You're doing it as much as they may see or think, oh, you're being an asshole. But you're not doing it because you're being an asshole. You're doing it because instinctively your job is to protect your kids.
But I think here's where I'm going to call on that, right? Because I think that the reason that we do this with our kids is that not because we're really trying to protect our kids, even though on the outside that's what it seems. It's actually because we're trying to protect that part of ourselves that doesn't know how to handle that situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're actually being protective of ourselves. Right. Us saying no, or us reacting that way is because that's our best way in that moment to say, oh my God, to protect ourselves from feeling, oh my God, I don't know how to handle this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening in those moments.
The other thing is, one of the questions that I had to start asking myself is, what do the kids need from me right now when they're having that moment? So if Lola's having a moment, if I ignore it and say, okay, go to your room, I'm doing that because I haven't learned to handle what's happening.
Exactly.
And I've noticed that when you stop, and this is a great thing for us as well, because I was just dealing with one of my clients this morning, and I was having the same conversation with them, that when Lola is having a tantrum, I got to let her have the tantrum, and then I'll go over and I'll say, okay, come over, and she'll sit on my knee and I'll cuddle her, and I only need to do it for 30 seconds and just let her be and let her have that moment, and then 30 seconds later, she's over, you know, climbing up the walls with her sister again. But when the only reason we prolong it is when we ignore it. So they'll keep having a tantrum. And it's like, okay, if you need to have a tantrum right now, that's okay.
I think that I've noticed you with the kids doing that. Like Oliver fell down one of the little steps in the house the other day and you picked him up and all you did was, I know, and you just held him and let him cry, right? Yeah. And I think it took about 30 seconds before he was off dismantling something else, right? He's off doing something else.
Totally. Well, he's off back up the stairs trying to fling himself down the stairs again. But I think that there's a lot to be learned there in terms of adults as well.
Oh, that's actually where I was going.
Because I know that when we all have parts of ourselves, you know, and I know that when there's a part of me having a hard time, if I stop and talk to that, separate myself and talk to that part of myself and say, okay, what do you actually need from me right now? What is it you need for me to understand or you need for me to do? Or it might be that you don't need me to understand anything. You just need me to just be present with you. But what is it you require from me right now that's going to help you to overcome this situation? Yeah. So I will stop and literally talk to parts of myself. And when I do that, within literally 2 or 3 minutes, I'm back up and around.
See, yeah, because what happens as adults, right? We've depending on what's gone on for us in our history, in our childhood, we've come to the notion that it's not okay for us to feel these things, that it's not okay for us to feel sad, for us to feel, you know, anxious, for us to feel any of those things. So we tuck these things down. Yeah. But if you take your cue from children, what they do is that they have that feeling, and if they're allowed to just have that feeling doesn't actually last very long. That feeling literally only lasts for maybe about a minute, and then they're off feeling excited about the next thing or angry about the next thing or happy about something else. So they've got all these different parts of themselves that play at different times. As adults, if we try and squash that part of ourselves down, what happens is that we end up it ends up kind of reoccurring because we haven't dealt with it. Yeah. So kids are a really good teaching mechanism for us in that way as well, because they show us, okay, if I'm allowed to feel this, you know, if I get the opportunity just to have this feeling, just to feel it, it doesn't mean I'm going to wallow in it. Quite the opposite happens. It's like, let me feel it and then I'm going to be able to move on. Does that make sense?
There's that great statement from Dr. Shivali, which you showed me the video, which is just fantastic.
Awesome.
Where she said, your kids don't get to be the canvas upon which you work your shit out. Yeah. You know, and that's really, 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 really good. And because I mean, one of the main things I've learned from my kids is the power of patience, you know, is the power of non-reacting and just acting. You know, like I'll hear the three of them down in the bedroom and I'll go down there and they'll be like dismantling the room and Oliver will be crying and, you know, Lexi will be standing on his head or something.
There'll be nail polish. With your kids, there's nail polish somewhere.
Nail polish. Like my bathroom has nail polish everywhere. And I'll go down and rather than reacting, I'll stop and I'll say, okay, guys, let's have a look at what's happening for Oliver here. I think it's important that everybody needs to just chill out a bit and let's just calm down.
Yeah, it's about teaching them to read the cues.
Read the cues of what's actually going on here. Where normally what I used to do is I would storm down and I'd be like, you get into your bedroom, you do this, you know. Yep. And there came a point where, and it was Ange, you know, it was really my wife that went, dude, you just can't fucking do that, because that's just your stuff. Yeah. You gotta evolve into being able to communicate better. Yeah. You gotta evolve into understanding that you don't get to be a dictator. You gotta talk with them and not at them. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally. And so kids, I think when I was teaching, one of the biggest things I noticed with the parents that came along was that they were trying to they forgot that the kids were actually people. Does that make sense? They feel like in some way that they're the ones in control and these kids don't have values of their own, ideas of their own, all that sort of stuff. And just like in a partnership, you wouldn't put somebody else down for having a different value than yours. You've got to be the same with kids as well.
Because you can make your kids feel wrong for having their values.
Absolutely. So it's like my biggest thing with kids is that you've got to communicate to them as you would communicate to an adult, but at their level. Right. So I'm not saying talk adult language. I'm saying, okay, have the same connection you would with an adult. Like if you were talking to your partner, your colleague, your friend, that's how you would talk to your kid.
Right.
But just at the level that they're ready to hear it. So obviously Lola's not ready for adult language yet, so we wouldn't be able to do that. But if she's asking a question, you've got to be able to communicate to her in terms of being she's an equal.
Yeah.
People feel like kids are lesser than them or that somehow or another they're more important because they're an adult. No, you're not more important. You are just as equal as they are.
Yeah.
And your job here is just to encourage them to be the best example that they can be.
Yeah.
The only way you can do that is if you are the best example of yourself. Yeah. And another thing with parenting is that people really feel like we meet a lot of parents who really feel guilty about feeling like they've messed their kids up in some way.
Dude, listen, I'm fucking one of those parents. There are times where I will walk into Ange and I'll think, oh my God, I can't fucking undo that.
Yeah.
I can't undo what I just said there. I can't undo what I just... Or Ange will see me reacting and she'll look at me and she'll go, you're going to feel guilty about that later. And I'll be like, shit. And she'll say, mate, sort it out now. And then, so as soon as I go in, if I've done something wrong by Lexi or Lola, Oliver's a bit too young for this, but if I've said something or done something that has made them upset, if I go in straight away and go, guys, listen,
to them about
Daddy could have handled that a bit better. What do you need from me? I understand that that's made you feel that way. And that was Daddy's stuff and not your stuff. It's boom, straight away.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that if that doesn't happen, like Lola was upset going to bed the other morning, and Lola's never done this. She was upset going to bed the other morning, and I'd said to her, going to bed the other night.
And I'd said, what's going on that she's going to bed in the morning?
And I'd said to her, when she was going to bed, she just wouldn't snap out of it. And she woke up in the morning and had a bit of a face on at the kitchen table. And I'm like, so she's taken that all the way through the night. And now she's brought it up in the morning. So this is where, a mood becomes a temperament, becomes a behavior, which then becomes a way of life. So my job is to break that cycle. So the mood doesn't become the temperament, doesn't become the behavior, doesn't become the way of life. So, and I remember saying to her, okay, what do we need to talk about? What's going on?
Yeah.
But if I hadn't have done that, that would have carried through the day. And that's how they end up, it becomes ingrained into them that and all they're saying is, help me to snap out of this.
And
how do I snap out of this shit?
Totally. And it's all about communication. And I think people think that if they were to communicate that way with their kids, you know what, I actually was controlling in that moment. You know what, I actually, could have handled that better. You know what, that was my stuff in that moment. They think that if they do that they're going to be lesser than as parents or lesser than as people. But actually that's what creates and builds that trust and respect with you and your children. Like it's crazy for me to think that, because if you did that with me, like if you not upset me, but let's say something happened and it was your stuff, you took it out on me for whatever reason.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my stuff.
No, of course it wouldn't be, because you're perfection. But if you did that with me, it would be easier for you to come up to me and say that, right?
Right.
Because I'm an adult. But why? I don't get why people don't do that with their kids. And the only thing I think is that they feel like they're lesser than as parents. But I think that makes them more than as parents.
I think it's important to understand that, you can't get it right with your kids, and then not getting it right with your kids, you actually get it right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. You're going to have to explain it again.
Well, you can't get it right with your kids all of the time.
And the reason that you can't get it right is because your kids have perceptions.
Yeah.
They're going to see things the way they're going to see
No matter
things.
what you do.
It doesn't matter what you do. You can be the best parent ever and they're still going to feel that something was missing in some way, shape or form. If they don't, they're not going to be able to go ahead and find those things in their life. So that's important for kids to feel
it's the thing of, if you gave your kids everything that they required, they would never move. They wouldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? There would never be any movement. So the simple fact that you don't give the kids everything that they require actually makes them go and get it.
Yes.
And so if you were to be the husband, the wife, the mum, the dad, the brother, the sister, and everything to the kid, they would never go and socialise with husbands and wives and girlfriends.
Of course.
They would never do that.
Same, go on.
So by necessity, you can't get it right, and in not getting it right, you actually get it right because it makes them, because it makes them go and get it. In not giving them everything they need, they actually go and get it. So in actual fact, they get everything that they need.
And let me give an example. So for you and Ange, right?
Yeah.
Ange feels at times, I know, that she doesn't play with the kids as much.
Yeah.
But in her not doing that, they get a connection with you when you play and muck around with them.
Yeah.
More,
and the funny thing is that Ange lost her father at 11. So, and then Ange was the youngest of 10 kids. So everything that Ange didn't get, that she would have loved, she perceived she didn't get, but she actually did. But she perceived she didn't get in a father. She got it in her brothers and that sort of stuff. But everything she perceived she didn't get, in her not getting it, actually compelled her to make sure that her kids got to get the things that she doesn't get.
Just love that.
Which I just think, well, that's the magic of synchronicity of life.
Absolutely.
That's the common thread. That's the gold. And I think that there was something else I was going to say there about...
we were talking about her playing and not playing.
And oh yes, I was going to tell this. It was a great story from last week. So Lexi was at school, and she came out of the classroom. She's running out of the classroom because Lexi's like this. You know, Lexi's 98% her height for her class. She's taller than anybody, and she smashes into another kid, and they hit each other's heads.
Yeah.
And Lexi passes out on the ground, and she's like, tweet, 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 tweet. And then the headmaster gets called, picks her up, brings her into the office. Ange's in with Oliver in one of the other classrooms, and she sees a kid getting carried into the office. Next of all, Ange's phone rings, and it's Lexi's being carried into the office because she blanked out. So they go in there, and Lexi's coming through, and she's holding her hand. She's like, "Oh, hold my hand," and they're like, "Oh, we better get her to the hospital."
And Lexi's not a crier at all, so for her to be upset is a big thing, right?
That's right. So I think I was on set, and I get a call to you need to come down because Lexi's in the hospital. So I'm like, "Guys, I have to leave. Lexi's been taken to the hospital. She's been unconscious." So I get in there, and Lexi's there, and she's up in the bed, and I'm like, "Hey, going home?" She's like, "Good." I'm like, "What's happening?" She said, "Oh, my hand is really sore." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "So they're going to want to x-ray your hand?" She goes, "Oh, I know, yeah, they're going to want to x-ray my hand." So Mammy's been there for like an hour and a half at this stage, and I'm there for another half an hour, and they said, "Look, we need to keep her here basically for 4 hours to make sure that she hasn't got concussion." So I said, "How are you feeling?" And she said, "Oh, no, I feel okay, but my hand and da-da-da-da." So Ange leaves, and Lexi's brought in for an x-ray. She comes back out, and she's holding her hand like this, and I'm looking at her hand all bent over, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute. And I'm like, so what's going on with your hand? She said, "Oh, I think I've broken my hand, Dad." And I'm like, "Really? You think you've broken?" "Yeah, I think I've broken my hand." I'm like, "Okay." So 3 hours has gone past at this stage. Now, next of all, Lexi's still walking around holding her hand, and there's no concussion. She's climbing all over. She's like,
because she's talking.
Yeah. She's like, "Dad, can we go home?" And I'm like, No. I have to wait for the x-ray to see if your hand's all right." And she's like, "How long have we got to wait for?" And I said, "Another 60 minutes. So watch this go around 1 minute." I said, "We've got to wait for 60 of them." And she's like, "But Dad, I want to leave the hospital. I don't want to be here." So next of all, she's lying on the floor. She's spinning around on her back. She's running up and down the corridor. All with her hand curled up. And I'm like, then she comes back 10 minutes later, "Can we go home now?" And I said, "No, we got to wait for the x-rays." I said, "Unless, of course, you can show me that your hand's all right." And she goes, "Oh, no, my hand is not right." And I'm like, "Really? Your hand?" No, my hand's not. I said, "So you can't move your fingers?" She moves her fingers a tiny bit. Like, I'm like, "Oh, no, we have to wait for the x-ray. We have got to wait here." And she said, "So if my hand is all right, I can go home?" And I said, "Yeah, well, if you're able to open your fingers and move your hand, then I can see your hand's all right. We don't have to wait for the x-ray." And she goes, "Oh, no, I'm not, no, I can't do that, no." So 10 more minutes goes past, and she goes, and I said, "So how's the hand, love?" And she's like, I said, "We got another 40 minutes to go." And she's like, "I want to go home now." I said, "But only if you can show me that your hands are right." She says, "So what do I need to do?" I said, "Just spread your fingers out once." And she goes like that. I'm like, so I looked at her and I said, "Did you get a lot of attention today?" And she goes, "Yes." I said, "Has this been kind of fun coming to hospital?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Was it good getting an x-ray?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Have you been pretending that you got a broken hand?" And she went, "Yes." Now, years ago when I was a kid, I'd have got a size 9 in my ass. I'd have got a clip in the back of the head. I'd been dragged out by the ear. But I think that, and I don't think it would have been that extreme, but I think that, when you think about how our evolution of hand, that's normal stuff for a kid. They're going to want to do that sort of thing, and you got to be able to pick and choose.
It's okay for them to want to have that.
Yeah. But calling her on it and having her admit it.
My favourite thing, because when you can do that, they get to see that they're seen. Does that make sense?
And they also don't hide.
And they don't hide that. So do you want to just, I know that this is not really relevant to the story, but tell what happened with Lola the next morning.
Oh, yeah, Lola. So we're going into school, and the girls go to a Montessori school, and they're going into school. hospital, and Lexi gets out of the car, and Lexi's put her hospital tag back on.
Back on.
And Lexi gets out of the car, and Lola gets out of the car, and they're walking up the driveway, and Lola's gone, come and see Lexi, everybody. She had an x-ray for no reason. Come and see Lexi, everybody. Went to hospital for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
I love that kid.
And then Lexi is just rolling around on the ground laughing.
It's really good when kids get a chance to be able to learn how to express these feelings, you know.
Yeah.
My cousin is what I consider one of the best mums I know. She's got a little girl, and every time, actually, maybe we tell something else before I tell this story.
Right.
You know how you're talking about what you do when the kids are feeling something, you know, about how going and saying proud of you?
Yeah.
Tell that, and then I'll tell this.
So I think one of the things, one of the opportunities in society now is for us to understand that feelings and emotions have chemical compounds. They're particles. They have particles attached to them. So what we know now is that whatever feelings and emotions we broadcast from ourselves, those feelings and emotions, as we broadcast, they tangle with our atmosphere. They tangle with particles. They tangle with atoms, and they bring about what we're feeling about. So we create our reality from the inside out. This is now how this is a science now. And so if we are encouraged not to feel or encouraged to suppress feelings, and what you suppress must be expressed. So we spoke about it earlier. If you don't get them to express it, well, then it perpetuates, a mood becomes, a behavior becomes a mood, becomes a temperament, becomes a way of life.
Yeah.
So the only way to actually change that or to actually harness that is we have to get our kids to register their feelings and to feel okay with how they feel about things. So one of the ways in which I started to notice and started to do this was with the kids was that when Lexi would paint a picture or she would draw something, she would come out, and she would say, "Hey, Dad, what do you think?" Our natural reaction as a parent is to go, "Oh, that's really beautiful. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, that is so amazing.
I feel proud of you.
I feel so proud of you. I'm so happy that you did that. I feel so grateful that you gave this to me." So what the kid is doing, the kid is then going and performing an action to feel the gratification of the parent.
Yeah, because they're getting a response from the parent.
That's right. So they do things to get an emotional response from the parent. And in the process of doing that, they're ignoring their own emotions.
Yeah.
So this is where we breed into our children the way of ignoring their emotions is to make your emotional response greater and more powerful than their emotional response.
And that's done with the best of intentions.
Of course.
Absolutely the best intentions.
Yeah, of course.
But what happens is that overrides how they're feeling.
Yeah, so what they do is they override their emotion to satisfy the parent's addiction. Does that make sense? Their addiction to feeling happy or good. So that then the child feels responsible for the parent's emotional state. So one of the things I do when the kids ever do anything, if they draw a picture for me and Lexi comes out or Laura comes out and they have a picture for me, and what I'll do is I will get down on my hands and knees and I will look them in the eye and I'll get my index finger and I'll tap them on the chest and I'll say to them, "You must be feeling really proud. You must be feeling really inspired right now." And then I'll say to them, "What are you feeling? Tell me what you're feeling in here." And they will tell me what they're feeling. So I make their feelings and emotions equally as important as my feelings and emotions. And then I will then say, "That makes me feel really inspired as well, Lexi. I'm feeling what you're feeling. We're both feeling this and this is okay." Does that make sense?
I love that. So that's being one of the best things that I think that we've spoken to people about. They've done it with adult children who they've never spoken to in that way before, and it's transformed the child because it gives acknowledgement to the feelings that hadn't had a voice prior to that.
The importance of that is when kids are acknowledging their feelings, they're acknowledging the fertile soil upon which they build their fucking reality. Your reality is based on your feelings and emotions. Your feelings, it's no longer, it's as much think and feel and grow rich as it is just think and grow rich. So feelings and emotions have chemical compounds. They are the fabric of your reality.
Absolutely.
And if you're denying the fabric of your reality, then you're denying your creative capacity to create the life that you want. And when you encourage it and encourage them to allow themselves to feel, so one of the things, I just did it last night when the girls went to bed, I would sit with them and say, "Okay, tell me what you got wrong today. Tell me what you screwed up. How did you make a mess? Tell me where you got it wrong. And both of them will tell me where they got it wrong. And then I'll say, great, now tell me where you got it right. And then I'll say, I got it right here, I got it right here. I think Lexi's one last night was that she had spilt something at school. Oh no, she'd ran into the classroom when she wasn't meant to run into the classroom yesterday. So she will, and what that does is it allows them to feel okay no matter what they're feeling.
No matter what is going on, yeah. And this is where I was talking about my cousin who I consider to be a great mum.
Yeah.
And she does the same, and she does it in reverse. Now her kid's only 2, like the little one's only 2. And she got upset the other day. And she was crying about something. My sister walked in and said, what's up? And she goes, I'm feeling really sad.
Yeah.
This little 2-year-old, because her mum's saying, oh, you must be feeling sad, or you must be feeling frustrated, or you must be So it's so important to give feelings or to give words to what's going on for kids. Because when you can do that, that empowers them to not only, one, to have that feeling and emotion, but to be able to express it and communicate that and to be able to get around in that way, you know.
Yeah.
I think that, I suppose, I didn't really, we were going to talk about family, but really I didn't know where it was kind of going to end up.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good takeaway, because if you can do that with your kids, you can also do that with yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the reason that you won't do it with your kids is because you won't do it with yourself.
That's right.
Because the kids are, when we're always getting, like one of our mums just recently spoke to me and she said, and she knows this work, and she said, my kid, I think I'm a good listener. My kid told me the other day that I wasn't listening to her, and I'm like, far out. I now have to think about where I'm not listening so that I can, and because when we give that to our children, they learn to be adults that go around in this world focusing and knowing what's going on for them instead of looking for it in everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Lexi will say things to me, you're not listening to me, and I'll say, Lexi, just because I'm not agreeing with you, it doesn't mean that I'm not listening to you. Or just because I'm not giving you what you want, it doesn't mean that I'm not listening to you. And then I'll say, what do you want me to hear? Outside of what you want me to do,
great,
what do you want me to hear?
What do you want me to hear? What is it that you feel I'm not hearing? That's really cool.
That was a good podcast.
That was good. Can I just say before we finish up, when I dropped the kids off at school the other day, Lexi did this slow motion reenactment of falling, and all these kids were gathered around thinking that she'd fallen again. The mothers are going, no, she's just doing a reenactment for Auntie Millie. It's so cute. All right, that was good.
TTFN. Boom. See you, dude.